Hi everybody, thanks for stopping by today. Today I've got a really special treat for me and you. It's the new series from Zeiss called the Milvus series. They have 6 new lenses and 2 of them are completely new optical designs. It's the 50 and the 85mm. This time we've got the 50mm f1.4. Looks like it's going to be a stunner, so stay tuned. Okay, real quick, before we take this back outside, I want to show you the lens itself. So this is the Zeiss Milvus 50mm 1.4. It now has weather sealing, which I believe the Otis does not. So that's pretty cool. Everybody complains about lenses that don't have weather sealing. I don't think it's a huge deal, but it's nice. It's nice to know that you don't have to worry about it in this case. If there's no drawback to having it. It has a really smooth focus. It's buttery smooth. It's on the stiff side. I will say it's kind of firm but smooth. So when you let go, you're not gonna accidentally bump it and move it, which I think is going to be very suitable for video. The front element is concave. You kind of see it there, which is pretty unusual outside of the Otis line. It is a heavy lens. It's not terribly big, but it's the Sigma 50mm art lens that everybody says is so heavy. This lens is actually a little over 2 ounces heavier than that one. But it feels like absolute quality in construction. It's a 10 element lens in 10 lens elements in 8 groups. So it's got 2 fewer elements than the Otis series. With the new 50mm rather, and 85, they changed the focus to an external focus mechanism. So the lens actually extends and retracts slightly. Whereas the Otis is a more expensive, more complex internal focus mechanism. That's one reason for some of the cost savings. It has this is the greatest lens hood I've ever seen. It's a metal lens hood. It seems like it's cast, and the inside has a velvet material to catch any stray light. I also heard, we'll just put it on here for you. There we go. So it looks kind of like really a baby Otis. I really like the new design. You can see the lens extends slightly there. I really like the new design. I think it's real cool. Contemporary looking and everything. The aperture ring has a declick feature, which I've declicked it, and it's kind of crazy seeing the blades. They stay pretty round. It's a 9 bladed aperture, but it's kind of crazy not feeling or hearing any clicks when you once you declick it. I guess that's really helpful for video too, when you have to do inside to outside shots and that kind of thing. So let's take it outside and get a good look at it and see how it performs. Okay, this here is 2 tests in 1. This is the Milvus lens. We've got it, basically it's a chromatic aberration test, because the white lettering against a dark background, the shadowing underneath that they've put on there, would show blue or purple fringing, or magenta. And it looks, on the back of the screen, it looks impressively clear. I'm going to take a picture of it as well and zoom in and see if I can see any, but this is shot wide open at f1.4. The other test this is a distortion test. So these lines are roughly vertical, and you should see some curvature in those lines in the frame with the lens's distortion. And it also looks very good as far as that goes. There's just a tinge of barrel distortion to my eye. But that's what we're getting right out of camera. Okay, since we've got some fall color out there right now, I was going to do a test with some backlit leaves. I wanted some specular highlights in the background so we could show how it renders both background blur and contrast and color and how resistant to flare it is. So first up here, this is a shot. I'm actually doing a comparison here for you to the Nikon 50mm f1.8 AIS lens. This is the pancake lens that some people are just rave about because it has such few elements and say the color rendering's really good and everything. So here's a shot taken with the Nikkor. You can see what the background blur looks like in the upper left hand side or the lower right hand side. You get these little sort of rings. They sort of have bright edges on them. A little bit noisy, a little bit nervous, I would say. And then check this comparison out. Here is at the same aperture, at the same both f2, the Milvus lens and the Nikon. I locked down the tripod and I took the same exact shot. So here is the Zeiss version. Boom! Look at that. Now, you know, some people say, "Oh well, the lower lens elements are going to have better color rendition and better all this stuff," and they're just flat out wrong. You know, we've got many more elements in the Zeiss here, and it's clearly superior in every way. Look at how creamy the background blur is. You know, there's no nervousness to the background, and this even has an aspheric element in it, and it's you know, normally those are regarded as having some flaws in the background blur, but it holds together very nice. The contrast is higher, the color saturation is better, color rendition's better, and also the 3D look to the image, the depth in the image is superior. Okay, and here's a side by side just so you can see the difference in the same frame. It doesn't even look like the same photo. It's kind of crazy, you know. As soon as this, you know, I've got a couple of those pancake lenses. As soon as I'm done with this video, I'm probably gonna sell them because it's so bad by comparison. I will say, if you are a fan of the flared portraits with intentional lens flare in them, then the pancake lens would be a good one to use because it's going to give you that real low contrast and flared out look, since it actually flares pretty easily. Here's another distortion test for you on the Milvus lens. I tried to line up the door frame on the right hand side, actually both sides, but with the edge of the frame, and I'm about centered on the door height wise, so that is an impressive result. Should be able to see a lot of curvature to the end, but it's holding pretty darn straight there. Okay, here is a 100% crop out of the video image I just showed you. You can see the detail on there, the lack of chromatic aberration. It's the colors, and that is just downright impressive. Okay, here's another video test for you. This time, this is the Milvus 50mm 1.4. We are shooting this at 5.6, f5.6, and the focus is on the pumpkin jack-o'-lantern closest to the center with the face, just to the right of center there. Okay, here's 100% crop of the image of the jack-o'-lantern. This is actual pixels 1:1, and it looks like I didn't even crop it at all. It remains very clean. Okay, here's another image. This one is taken with a Nikon 50mm AIS lens again. This is the, you know, I love these things, these binoculars that look like they were built 100 years ago and they look like they'll last another 100 years. but I focused dead center on the little, I don't know what it is, looks like a nose on the face of the binocular thing. But anyway, I wanted to show some detail retrieval because there's this pretty cool texture in the face of this thing. So I magnified. These are of course focused manually as a manual lens, but this is the Nikon 50mm 1.8. But you can also notice the bokeh in the background. You can see the blur circles. You know, they have the bright edges on them. A little bit of nervousness up in the foliage, and you can get an overall sense for the color and contrast. Now let's pop up the Milvus version, and these are both taken at 1.8, by the way. And look at that. Both were focused the same way. I magnified the image in live view so I could get a very accurate focus. You know, as sharp as I possibly can. There's so much more texture. These are straight out of camera too. There's no editing here. Other than the compression that YouTube's going to put on the image. The creaminess of the background, the contrast on the image is better, the color is better, and let's put them side by side. So here's a shot for you with both the images, so you can compare their huge difference, as there should be. You know, I'm not trying to you know, make fun of the Nikon or anything. We're talking about a lens that costs, you know, over 12 times as much as the Nikon version, but some people say that it's just the greatest thing ever. And you know, that these new Otis lenses or Milvus lenses, you know, any of these new series lenses, the Sigma Arts, you know, they're just not as good because they have too much glass in them. But you know, I haven't seen any examples from those people, so here you go. Here's your examples. It's pretty clear. Difference is pretty clear.
And if you want to see what the bokeh is like, get a look at this. Look at the creaminess. Pretty nice. It's a shame to waste all this color. So, enjoy. I don't know how sharp I am. I've tried to focus right next to me, but that's pretty nice though, huh?
Now let me just say that this lens is super sharp. It's a very sharp lens. I go to the zoo to test a lot of times with lenses because there's so many things there to take pictures of. So this elephant crossing sign here, this one is a good one to show chromatic aberration. And you know, because of the transition of the dark black elephant crossing letters to the really light painted background here. And it also shows a lot of detail because of all the grain in the wood and everything. So this one here was shot at, this is f4.5, so I'm trying to show you the kind of sharpness this lens is capable of. And here I'll put up a 100% crop of that image, and it's just absolutely clean. Almost all lenses show some chromatic aberration here, and this is the cleanest one that I've ever shot, really. Here's an example of a portrait I took for Halloween here. Focus is on the little elephant's eyes. You can see the background blur. This is very flat light. This is right at dusk, and the sun is already behind the trees, so it's very flat light, and it still renders some contrast pretty well. Just very accurate. And here is a 100% crop on the eyes. So focusing, you know, in my first few attempts, I didn't have any trouble really. It focuses on exactly where I put the focus sensor. This is on a D810 from Nikon, by the way. I repeatedly tried to get it to flare, so I put the sun in the image, had the sun peek through the trees here, and so I had a dark foreground. Usually you get the most flare when there's a darker area immediately diagonal from the light source in the image, and I just could not get the Milvus lens to flare. It's quite impressive that way, unless what you're going for is flare, but you know, you can use a real cheap lens if you want flare. Here's a shot of some sushi. This was dinner a couple nights ago, and you know, even though this isn't a macro lens and it doesn't focus super close, close enough for general usage, but this is only cropped slightly here. I'm straight above the sushi there. And I just wanted to show you the sharpness capability of this lens. Let me show you a 100% crop of this. There you go. Now this is with no sharpening applied. This is straight out of the camera. No adjustments. That is amazing. It's sharper than my than my 3 macro lenses. So that's once again, I keep saying it, but that's very impressive. Here's the Milvus lens on text. This is shot wide open at f1.4, and this is actually its closest focusing distance. I do want to make a point too, which I really like, is that the lens has floating elements. So, you know, unlike some macro lenses are really sharp when they're close up, you know, within a meter, but at infinity they get quite a bit softer. This is corrected with the floating elements so that it's sharp close up, it's also sharp at infinity. And that's awesome because you never know what you're going to use the lens for. Now it's not a macro lens, they do have one for that, the f2 macro. But it gets reasonably close. This is actually cropped here. You couldn't get this close without cropping. So anyway, but this shows the text test here. This shows longitudinal chromatic aberration. So generally the blurred elements in the foreground will take on a magenta cast, and in the background they will take on a green cast, which isn't really much of a problem in portraits because a lot of the time your backgrounds are green, so foliage and things like that, and they just make a nice creamy background. But as far as lenses go, this one is very clean. The only one I've seen that's cleaner than this is the Otis lens, which has none. It's quite impressive. But also the blackness of the test, or the text here. The black is black, the white is white. That's also quite impressive. Usually when a lens is wide open like this, you'll get a bit of a soft rendering. But this is still very crisp. That's very impressive. Well, as usual, thanks for stopping by. Sorry if I got a little wordy on this one, but I really put a lot of work in because I wanted to really show you a good lens test on this one. I'm going to be keeping the 50mm, and I'm pretty anxious to try out the 85. I think those two lenses are absolutely stunning. I know the 35 f2 is a great lens too. I'm sure they're all great lenses. You know, they only carried over the really good designs out of the classic series for the other 4 lenses. But check them out, Zeiss Milvus. We'll see you guys next time.